Good morning. The people of British Columbia will decide down the road somewhere whether the latest blow to education is properly managed social credit restraint or a redneck attack on educational institutions. Nelson and the surrounding communities were shocked and stunned when the announcement was made just the other day that David Thompson University Centre would close, finish, done, down the tube on May the 1st. Now, we all know that one of the targets of the social credit government is education. We've watched them in action with the teachers. And if I may stick my neck out, they have won the battle, as far as everything seems to be at the moment, against the teachers, with the consequent loss of up to 2,300 jobs in the near future. Now, this government is accused of wanting to slash back on the universities and the colleges. Just for your information, there are 300,000 BC citizens enrolled in colleges and institutions, 23 of them in separate locations throughout British Columbia. And as you know, Heinrich's dogma from the Premier is to knock 80-odd billion out of the public education system and maybe 20 million or so out of the colleges, I don't know. In the studio this morning, to give you a forthright report of what this means to Nelson, to the David Thompson University Centre, the University of Victoria, to Selkirk College and its other 3 campuses, and to you, is Dr. Richard Pearce, the principal of David Thompson University Centre. By happenstance this morning, I must interview the man whom some people think could, this might surprise you, win the NDP Leadership Convention in May as Davy Barrett moves off to other fields. And that man is a lawyer, former Deputy Attorney General, 49 years old, prominent in many human rights and cases involving the Association for the Mentally Retarded, David Vickers. We'll see if we can get some specific policies out of David Vickers this morning, or if he's just going to come in a la Mulroney and not step on anybody's toes if and until he has the job. But first, it's this educational crisis for Nelson, for Selkirk, for the University of Victoria, and for the DTUC with Dr. Richard Pearce after the break. Dr. Richard Pearce is a director of the David Thompson University Centre. How much of a blow was this, and when was the axe delivered to your university centre?
On Wednesday, January the 4th, last week, at 4:25 in the afternoon, I received a phone call, actually from the principal of the college, who was at the ministry offices in Victoria, and he very kindly telephoned me personally and told me that the announcement was going to be made in the next hour. Within the next hour, the announcement was on the media, and the vast majority of our employees and the community heard for the first time that the University Centre was going to be closed on May the 1st.
You must have known it was coming.
We always have had concern about our costs and our facility. We have been told there are going to be rather severe restraints in the province, but the first formal indication that we had was on January the 4th, following a letter in September from both ministers that they were well pleased with the success achieved thus far by the Centre and warranted its continuation.
Now, you're a kind of a hybrid body, and when you say both ministers, you're telling me that in September of last year, long after the restraint crisis was rolling, it was confirmed to you by both Heinrich and McGeer that your performance as a college warranted its continuation.
Yes, within the amount of monies that were available for both capital and renovations and so on.
Now, what is David Thompson University Centre? All I can remember are names that come back from the dark past called Fandu, and little bits of riots here and there, and McGeer and the terribly high horse whipping Fandu in public, as I recall. That was the old Notre Dame University in Nelson.
That's correct.
Has that got any connection in any way, shape or form to today's David Thompson University Centre? Because what I'm getting at, is it an axe that's being ground because of previous troubles?
I don't believe so, but I will give you an answer to the best of my ability. In 1951, the Notre Dame College was formed, followed by the charter being given in 1963. And from 1963 to 1977, Notre Dame University was the fourth university within this province.
Jesuit, private.
That's correct. Private institution. In 1977, the ministry took over the center and by an act of legislation created the David Thompson University Centre. This is a facility, the old campus of Notre Dame with all of its old buildings, that is now managed by the University of Victoria and Selkirk College. Those are the two participating institutions who offer programs for the interior in the West Kootenays at the David Thompson Centre. I might clarify that Selkirk College is acting as the educational lessee. Selkirk College is responsible for the facility. Consequently, they receive funding from the Ministry of Education for that purpose.
2.9 million they get.
That's right.
To run your, the college side of your centre.
Yes, about 1.4 million of that is for instruction for the first and second year college programs, and about 1.3 for the support. We have a large cafeteria service, a residence that's been recently renovated, and many of the individuals on our campus are performing services in the library and other places for other college campuses as well.
Right, so you've got a mother and a father. The mother is Selkirk, we'll say, or the father is Selkirk, the mother is University of Victoria. How the hell is it involved?
In 1977, the ministry came to, the provincial government came to the University of Victoria and asked the University of Victoria, as one of the universities in the province who had an interest in fostering programs in the interior, to undertake university programs at the center. They agreed that the university would not be financially responsible for that endeavor, but they would provide the money. Would the university do the programs that were in the third and fourth year? The University of Victoria, George Peterson at that time was the vice president of the university and was very much in favor of extending the scope of university offerings in the province. And under his leadership, President Howard Petch's leadership, the university then entered into that agreement.
So therefore, just to sum up, the David Thompson University Centre is the only degree-granting institution, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Bachelor of Education, the only degree-granting institution for students who do not, outside of the Lower Mainland.
That's
Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Now, when I look at your student ratio enrollment, I think, my God, 4 to 1. What kind of place is this? Is it worth the money? You only had 500 students full and part-time. Is that only half? Is that the weakness? Is that why they've cut your throat? You have 100 staff and only 500 students.
The 100 staff, there are 11 from the University of Victoria. There are about 45 individuals that are participating from Selkirk College Faculty Association. There are some 40 individuals from the PPWC, the support staff. Many of these people are part-time individuals, but the vast majority of them still are full-time employees. It has been no secret that the costs, per capita costs, of operating the programs at the center are somewhat larger than or in excess of the provincial mean. We also have some programs that do not have the enrollment statistics that now the new formula funding under the Ministry of Education is requiring.
But did you not get a chance at any time, perhaps to use that dreadful word, restrain a little bit, to make modifications or suggestions? Did you have no opportunity?
We have just finished 5 years of the first 5 years of this institution. During the first 3 years of that, there was very little talk of restraint, and we were trying to maintain the programs that we had as such. During the last 2 years, it has become abundantly clear that the restraint measures in the province warrant consideration. We have downsized many of our areas. We have got more cost effectiveness in operation. But Jack, In a year's time, for a large organization, it's difficult to make drastic changes. We need a period of 2 or 3 years in which to become competitive. Recently, we employed a marketing agency, and they did a major study on the David Thompson University Centre, prescribing a number of recommendations that we could increase our cost effectiveness and that we could increase the draw of students provincially as a provincial organization. We've taken some steps according to that market plan, and we've seen some dramatic results. We are now flooded with inquiries for our rural education program for teachers. Nowhere in the interior is there another program like this.
Would you say this particular axe, and it is an axe, it's a total axe, you close on May the 1st?
That's what we've been told.
You lock the doors on May the 1st and leave the place empty?
The phrase is to mothball.
All right. When you're mothballed, is this an act of discrimination against students in the interior of British Columbia?
Well, it certainly will have a dramatic impact to restrict the access of people in the interior in Nelson. We see this as a step which has been taken, symbolic in nature, to indicate that there is continued downsizing of the public money in post-secondary education. What is so apparent to us who live in Nelson at the present time and who have worked in the interior is the fact that the access for university programs in the interior is being dramatically reduced.
I wouldn't be overstating if I said Social Credit Government on January the 4th today closed the only degree granting institution which is freely available for access to rural students in the interior of British Columbia, and did not give you any chance whatsoever to come back even with a 50% budget.
It would have been very interesting if the community, which has been highly supportive of our facility, had had some indication and would have been able to respond to bring some of the local resources together. That would have created within the city of Nelson and the community of the West Kootenay not only an opportunity to respond, but a vote of confidence by the government to the community that they indeed are part of education in this province and not apart from it.
More with Dr. Richard Pearce, a director of David Thompson University Centre, and later on we'll take your calls after the break. This, I suspect, and I suggest to you, is the tip of an iceberg. Because when I came back last September and started looking at Bill 311, 9, 20 and 26 and the Labour Code amendments, I thought, here comes the big hatchet. Especially on the 300,000 people who attend post-secondary educational system through the universities and other places in British Columbia. Now, do you have a large complement of people who get professional development courses in the interior? Do you, as David Thompson? No, you don't.
We have approximately 100 full and part-time University of Victoria students. Some of those are part-time people in the community that are taking courses, English and history courses, to upgrade their education and to continue their education at the centre.
But throughout the province, the 3 universities must have an incredible number of people who attend institutions for these part-time courses. How many, do you know?
Approximately. Over the last 6 years, there has been a concerted effort by the 3 major universities, Simon Fraser, UBC, UVic, to service programs in the interior of a diploma and of professional development courses. This year, currently, there are some 30,000 individuals in the interior that in some way or other avail themselves through the Knowledge Network, the Open Learning Institute, the 3 universities programs of university education in the interior. 30,000.
Now, wasn't that money cut last year?
Yes. The universities, the 3 universities did receive approximately $3 million for this purpose.
And that was cut last year by a third, as I recall.
1/3 was cut last year, and we are informed that for this next fiscal year, it's likely that another third will be cut from that budget, and the following year, the following third.
In other words, it'll be out a couple of years from now, it'll be finished. These 30,000 people who are achieving some kind of university educational level will not get it in future.
Well, the source of funding for these students does not come directly from the universities. It comes from the university's council. It comes from specially earmarked money for the interior. And it is that money that we fear will be abolished.
That's the very thing that I was getting at, because I have this feeling there's going to be a mass attack on the 300,000 students involved in this. And we're trying to get together with Heinrich and McGeer on that particular subject. Now, what are the chances if I live in the university of receiving a full-time university education, if I live in the interior, of receiving a full-time university education?
Well, our latest statistics show that if you are living in the interior, if you were born in the interior, if your family's in the interior, that you have about 50% of the participation as the lower mainland. In other words, out of 100 students attending universities, 66 of those people will be lower mainland people.
And the rest will come from other parts of the province and outside.
That's right.
So therefore, university education goes to the lucky ones nowadays with money who live around the three main universities in the provinces. That's the way it looks, doesn't it?
Yes, in the recent Saturday edition of the Vancouver Sun, I think many of your viewers will be gratified to see pages of advertisements for non-credit and credit courses for part-time learners from the three major universities and colleges. That's a marvelous contribution for the vitality of the people of this province to avail themselves of these opportunities. What I would like to see is at least some opportunity for the universities and colleges to continue to offer educational services for the adult, for the mature student.
But what you're telling me is it's easy down here but damn difficult in other parts of the province.
It always has been.
Yeah, well, that's the old business of, I suppose, geographical discrimination. It's the same in hospital treatment. You have much better chance of living if you take sick down here with some diseases than if you fall sick in the interior. Is that not correct?
That's true, and I think it would be false to try to pin the focus or the blame for these decisions on any one particular agency or government body. There is a large integrated system. We are informed that the cabinet is of the opinion that the amount of public money in education needs to be decreased. We are told that they are not getting sufficient indication from the people of the province of British Columbia that they should sustain this type of financing for education, and as a result they're giving their ministers indications to retrench and restrain and cut down.
Well, what kind of reaction was it? I've seen the Nelson Daily News, but you'd give me a summary of the reaction in Nelson to this, would you please?
Yes, I would. I would say that the first reaction was shock and dismay. This community in British Columbia witnessed the demise of a university some 6 years ago, and it was a very bitter experience for the community and for the province.
Not today, yeah.
Yes, and we are very grateful for Dr. Patrick McGeer and the Ministry of the Universities for the enthusiasm and for sustaining the interest that he and his ministry have had.
Well, you're not
for
so
the
grateful
interior.
now. I mean, let's not con anybody. You got a letter there from him in September signed by he and Heinrich saying, and this is not a private document, is it?
No.
We are satisfied, say McGeer and Heinrich, that the success achieved thus far by the Centre, DTUC, warrants its continuation within the context of monies. Nobody says that they're going to close your place down, right?
That's true, but you'll notice that the announcement was made by the Minister of Education. And to date, we have not received any indication from Dr. McGeer, from the Ministry of the Universities, from the University of Victoria, from the Universities Council, that they have changed their posture on providing university services to the interior.
In other words, you haven't had the official chop on the 700,000 you get from the Universities Council for your degree granting program.
Exactly, we've had no word.
Okay.
We are now orphaned.
One other aspect I want to get to. You have a faculty union, as I recall.
The Selkirk College has a faculty association where
Faculty association, yes.
it's a bargaining unit.
Bargaining unit. Now, what happens when you close, if you close, as you will close, because nowadays when Bennett makes up his mind, it stays made up, it would seem. What happens to these particular employees? Are those who work for you in Nelson just out in the cold snow? Or do they bump each other?
The latter takes place, and this is something that has placed an enormous impact on Selkirk College. A college that came to the ministry's resources at that time and assumed the responsibility for college programs in the center, moved some of its programs such as the Department of Music and the Kootenai School of Art into the center in order that it could become a viable configuration of programs. And now, with this cut, some 45 Selkirk College faculty will have to exercise their seniority rights amidst a number of other campuses, and there will be significant disruption for all three campuses of Selkirk College.
Okay, question before the break. There's no indication yet of any response from Heinrich and or McGee as to salvaging the operation. It's a firm decision, down the drain.
We've had no response from the Ministry of Education. The principal of the college, Selkirk College, is in close touch with ministry officials. We are meeting later this afternoon with Howard Petch, senior members of the university administration and members of the university's ministry, because they were totally surprised by this announcement.
Do you feel it's brutally unnecessary yourself?
I think that it's a very unfortunate choice and a very difficult decision where the community was not allowed an opportunity to respond and propose some alternate ways of assisting the university and the college at bringing education to the interior.
People in Nelson can call on any number collect this morning to talk to Dr. Pearce after the break, or from anyone else. Does this mean they don't get the money? A spokesman in the office of Dr. Patrick McGee, Minister of University Science and Technology, told my staff this morning that Dr. McGee does not have anything to say about the closure of the David Thompson University Centre. But because the contribution of the Ministry of Universities, small fraction of the total, 700,000 out of 3.5 million, was considered not enough to even maintain that fraction of funding, considering the loss of the Ministry of Education funding. That's, in other words, what McGee is saying. Education is out, and we're out too. No money from us. Dr. McGee will not be available tomorrow to come on the Webster program. Does not particularly want to comment on the closing of the David Thompson University Centre. Well, that's most unlike Dr. McGee. I've never seen Dr. McGee back away from a controversy or a controversy before. Dr. McGee, that's awful. You'll have to come on tomorrow morning, name of goodness. Really? And this is, we now find that you approve of the cutting out of the 700,000, Dr. McGee. Well, you can take that word as accurate. However, that's beside the point. People will attack you, no. Your degrees, in which area of degree granting have you made what you regard as a significant social contribution? You've got a Bachelor of Education thing. God, we've got education degrees coming out of our ears down here, haven't we?
Yes, you certainly do.
What way are yours any different?
And there are probably 8,000 certified individuals in this province who could teach but are not at the present time, and I can understand the sentiment that says, why do we need more teacher education? Well, Jack, I'll tell you why we need more teacher education. A particular kind of education at David Thompson Centre is rural education. It's a unique program designed for people who wish to render public service in elementary school teaching in the interior of this province. 1, 2, 4-room schools 30 miles from the nearest centre pose entirely different sets of challenges for a teacher with 30 to 60 students.
Now, I do specialize in teaching rural education techniques.
We're the only institution in the province that has the focus on that program.
But what about your fine arts? You know perfectly well that this is not a government that's particularly dedicated to the fine arts in Nelson or anywhere else for that matter.
The history of the fine arts in Nelson, as I mentioned before, goes way back some 30 years, in which the Ministry of Education founded it's called Kootenai School of Art.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the Kootenai School of Art that moved into the David Thompson Centre. There's probably a greater degree of artistic talent in the West Kootenays than there is in many other parts of the interior of the province, and our programs reflect that resource.
Here's a call from Nelson. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, this is me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'd just like to make one point to begin with. I, for one, am a very angry citizen of Nelson. I have been planning next year to take some courses at the university in upgrading my English and my history, and which I'm now not able to do. And it seems to me like the government of the province is always quoting long-term gains when they're questioned about the cost of different projects. And it seems to me that to be a very sad and telling point when the educational future is not given the same due consideration. I just don't understand how they can summarily just cut the services to this area.
Well, they've done it, ma'am. How did you vote in the last election?
NDP.
Well...
That's probably why. That's probably one consideration.
Oh, yes, you have
NDP area.
You have an MLA up there, I forget his name. Nicholson.
Lauren
Nicholson,
Nicholson,
right. He is an NDP area.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he's a university's critic.
Oh.
So that might be interesting to have if you had him on your program.
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead from Ellington, Vancouver Island.
Yes, I also am a very irate parent. This is just another example of this government's non-education policy towards education. We, a growing area, are losing teachers while they keep saying that the enrollment is going down. But we are getting cuts when enrollment is going up. And to me, universities are going to be a thing of the past anyway, because education is getting so deteriorated at the basic level that there won't be any need for them anyway.
Well, anyway, I'm not going to argue with you about enrollments going down or up, but we, as even Dr. Pearce said this morning, we went through the halcyon days of the 70s without really worrying overall, I'm not talking about your centre, worrying about costs. The money was there, programs were expanded, things were good. And your college, I'm sure, is the first, your university centre, is the first to realise that restraints are essential of some kind.
That's correct.
But your outrage is based on the fact that they chopped your head off.
He keeps talking, Mr. Heinrich keeps talking about 1976 levels. Well, in this area, we are already below 76 levels. How far back does he want us to go?
God knows, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I'm most interested in this because I got an education from a lot poorer place than Nelson in the Kootenays in the 30s. And I would like to say that you're missing the whole point. It's a question of how much of the taxpayers' money should go to the few people who like to take courses, like my next-door neighbor in West Vancouver, who's been going to courses since she's over 60. That's fine. I think she's wonderful, but she should pay the whole thing herself. And if you ran an institution where you had one staff to every 4 or 5 students, you should be ashamed of yourself. You must be a totally incompetent administrator. I would like to say that I think there's nothing more important in the world than education. We're not getting it. We have a lot of incompetence at Capilano College. We have a group of itinerant hippies who don't seem to be qualified to be anything. I get the list all the time. I think that the trouble with your organization isn't where it is, but who is running it and who is teaching it.
Well, let's take...
We need education, but we don't need all this nonsense.
Okay, let's take your... Some of your points may well be valid. She says 500 pupils, 100 staff. Nonsense. You must be incompetent. She's talking about the college. She's not insulting you personally, I'm sure.
No, of course, I understand.
Right?
It's an extremely complex organization in which, for example, the library that we have does all of the technical processing and acquisitions for the entire Selkirk College.
Where are the other campuses of Selkirk? I should know that.
All right, there's a campus in Trail, there's a campus in Castlegar, the main campus. There is also a Nelson Vocational School campus, which is some 4 miles away from our particular location in Nelson. And there are some 8 rural centers that are operated, as far as extension centers, operated around the West Kootenays.
What's going to happen to these central services presently operated at DTUC when you close May 1?
Well, that indeed is a significant impact on the college, and the principal at this time is working with a team of senior people to explore the alternatives which will allow the college to continue to operate in the West Kootenays with this devastating blow.
More calls, please, to Dr. Pearce after the break. Come May the 1st, David Thompson University Centre closes down. Finito. Because of budgetary cuts by both Heinrich and now we confirmed this morning by Dr. Patrick McGeer. McGeer hasn't said anything officially in public yet, but we got the word. And what staggers me is that he won't come on the programme tomorrow morning to talk about it. Imagine McGeer not wanting to talk about something. Tenured professor and all the rest of it. You know, he works for the university, he runs the Ministry of Science and Universities, and he doesn't want to talk about the closure of a university centre in BC. It's incomprehensible to me, good Dr. Patrick. Go ahead from Alexis Creek.
Yes, I want to know if the pre-apprenticeship courses are going to be affected, and if so, where will those students be able to continue their education at?
Yeah, those courses are offered by Selkirk College out of the vocational school in Nelson, and in order to get some information on that directly, you should call Selkirk College, the principal's office, or Bruce Meldrum, the director of the vocational school.
But they're not affected.
Not directly.
You go from Alexis Creek to Nelson?
No, my family's from the southern interior.
Thanks, ma'am. From Nelson, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm an artist in the Nelson area, and I have done a lot of training at David Thompson University, and I do believe that that rural alternatives as far as artwork is really important, and Nelson provides the only opportunity for that, and Vancouver Emily Carr School is the only other place for urban training, and without the rural training, you know, being an artist is going to mean moving to Ontario.
It really is quite a successful art centre you have, is it?
It certainly is, and if you could ever visit us one time, I think you too would be convinced.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name's Kevin Russell. I'm Vice President for External Relations of the Student Society at Simon Fraser.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this is only one of the examples of the government's distaste for post-secondary education. They've cut student aid from 24 to 14 million. The president of UVic Student Society and I were both leaked information on the same day that the government's getting rid of student aid entirely as of next year. We've been told that the funding for universities in British Columbia will fall 6% next year, 5% the year after that, and 5% the year after that, and that's before inflation. That means 11% in the first year. A full tenth of the university is going in the first year, and if inflation stays anywhere where it is at the moment, that's going to be 10% in the year after that, another 10% in the year after that.
I don't know where you get your information, but it sounds logical.
Well, I get my information essentially directly from sources in the ministry, or for instance, the 6, 5, and 5 I got from Dr. Saywell at SFU.
On the record.
Not solid information, it's what we've been told to expect. 94% is already what we've been told to plan for the next fiscal year. But with 5% inflation, that means 10% of the university is lopped off, at the very least.
So they're not the least bit...
Thing's going to happen. That means after about 3 years, we're going to have something on the order of, 60% of the university system that we have today. They're getting rid of post-secondary education. They don't believe in it. They don't think it belongs to the people of British Columbia. And they're defunding it. At the same time, the universities are going to have to increase their tuition. Dr. Saywell has informed us that our tuition will go up about 3 times. So that means we're going to pay 3 times as much for a university system that is about a half gone. It's pretty frightening. What it means is we're going to be having to borrow something on the order of $20,000 to $30,000 a year, unless you happen to come from parents that can pay for your way, for a system that's watered down and is no longer really useful to you.
Do you have that? I have that kind of feeling myself. Have had since I saw the restraint package last August. I don't know if you'd care to comment on that or not, Dr. Pearce.
Well, it's abundantly clear that both ministries are downsizing their budgets. And when you look at $20 million from the Ministry of Education, or you look at $25 million from the university's ministry, there's only 1 or 2 places that can come from. And if you've got 80% of your dollars in faculty salaries, it's obvious that we're going to have some displacements.
Mind you, there were some ludicrous faculty salary increases in the halcyon years. I remember 18% up Ireland. And then I remember when the University of BC got something like 18%. That was a 20% increase in budget in 1 year.
I think one of the most important aspects that goes beyond these immediate figures is what are we going to do in the province in British Columbia? What are those programs that are going to serve us most effectively for the future? It's that kind of leadership and that kind of education that I believe has to be dealt with. And that's going to be fraught probably and developed by a configuration of resources within the university and outside the university. And it's the future that we must focus on as to how to bring about in this province of British Columbia the most effective delivery of those services that are going to aid and abet our people here in the province.
Kevin, will you phone me after the program? Kevin Russell.
Will I phone you after the program? Certainly.
Yeah, please.
Can I point out that it really is not necessarily what you would call a problem with wages when they're cutting 30 to, well, almost 40% of the budget for post-secondary education out of the system. That's got nothing to do with wages. They don't believe in it. They're getting rid of it.
Well, I mean, I'll agree perhaps that many of them don't believe in it, but the extraordinary salary increases put an incredibly heavy load just at the time of the slump.
It's fairly commensurate with other provinces, and if they're going to stay at a level so that they can attract quality professional staff to this province, they're going to have to offer a competitive wage, or else we're going to get people that aren't exactly what you would call the finest in the world.
Oh, we may settle for second best. You never can tell. Thanks, Kevin. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
I am disgusted, totally disgusted. There's one point that no one has brought up this morning is that universities traditionally, thanks to population factors, have always been in the big areas where the population can support the universities. Now, perhaps the interior doesn't have the population, the tax base, to make it viable in those areas. I don't know.
What are you talking about? What are you disgusted about?
I'm disgusted that people are crying over something that is being cut that is non-cost effective.
Well, let me tell you something. W.A.C. Bennett was elected the Premier of the province of British Columbia and stayed the Premier of the province of British Columbia for 22, 3, 4 long, miserable years many times because he recognized there was more than the Lower Mainland and because he reset the imbalance in the expenditures of money with blacktop to everywhere. Now, it's a fact of life that if you live in the interior, you don't expect the kind of services you get in Vancouver.
Nor should you. You don't have the tax base to support
It's
it.
nothing to do with the tax base. Education should be coming out of general revenue anyway.
There's no such thing as a free ride. If you want the services,
Move to Lower
area,
Mainland.
move to a large
you want
area.
them-
You may not like it, Jack, but it is the truth.
And if you want a heart bypass it instantly, if you follow the street, make sure you're just outside the General or St. Paul's at 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't be so selfish. It's one bleeding province. Even I would concede that. And I'm a pretty selfish guy, to say the least. Go ahead from Cranbrook. I hope that did not disturb you, my little outburst.
No.
Go ahead from Cranbrook. Go ahead from Cranbrook. Oh, 4. Oh, sorry. See, it rattled me, that man. Go ahead from Cranbrook.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah.
We put a lot of money into those provincial and 649. What better use can they get for their money than if they give it to the college?
Who knows what happens to the money left over from 649? All I know is that there's $14 million of lotto money sitting greedily held by a dying organization in Ottawa that could run David Thompson University Centre for 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, good morning. I wish I could speak on behalf of my daughter herself, but she's busily working away at David Thompson College. She is from Vancouver and has a choice of any university in the Lower Mainland. Her well-considered choice was David Thompson, mainly because of the art college and also the ambiance of the charming town of Nelson. My point is that the transfer of students works both ways, from the well-schooled Lower Mainland to the interior. Emily Carr is a decent school of art, but it doesn't offer academics as well. David Thompson is the only college that offers both.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, just to wrap up, you've presented the situation to me. I haven't really taken a position one way or another, but my function is partly to point out to people the opportunities for information. On May the 1st, having been informed on January the 4th by Heinrich, and now apparently confirmed by McGear's staff, your money stops, the David Thompson University Centre closes, the pupils will have to find somewhere else to go, the staff will be bumping like crazy up and down Selkirk College, and presumably some of them are from New Vic too, is that not correct?
That's right. They don't have long-term contracts or an association with the university.
I presume that the mayor and others will be going to see the premier in Victoria whenever they can get hold of them.
I understand so.
Well, I'm grateful for you for coming all the way down to appear on the program this morning, Dr. Pearce. And at least the one thing the public must have is some accurate information, which I know you have given us.
Well, thank you very much.
My thanks to you and the people in Nelson. David Vickers, candidate for leadership of the NDP, after the break.
I think that I can bring to that process a sense of confidence, a sense of hope for the future, and a sense of our ability